Hey guys, it's Penguin here, and welcome back to another gold making video. In this video, I'm going to go over 5 beginner-friendly tips to hopefully increase the amount of gold that you're making daily, as well as just increase your overall crafting efficiency. So I've made a similar video like this before, however, it's been a few weeks, even a few months, and I thought I should bring back some of these tips because daily in the Discord I hear some type of question relating to these things, and hopefully this can give you a little bit of ideas to hopefully improve your crafting. But if you are a veteran of gold making or not a complete beginner, some of these may be a little bit common sense to you, but hopefully every person watching can at least learn something from this video. But thank you guys so much for your support recently. If you guys haven't already, feel free to like the video if you watch this and you enjoy it. And of course, feel free to subscribe if you haven't already, if you want to end up seeing more of my content. But without further ado, here is the first tip. And so the first tip that we have for this video is actually a blacksmithing tip. And this is actually the only item that we're going to be talking about in this video that is specifically useful for crafting. And that is these little thermal anvils right here. Now basically what this is a portable anvil. You can right click it, it places it at your feet, and then you can craft things at an anvil and a forge. So the downside about this is that it only lasts for 5 minutes, so it's kind of like a portable mailbox type of thing, but it's an anvil. And of course, each item only has 20 charges. So you only have about 100 minutes worth of use if you were to use it for 20 times, 5 minutes each. But the reason why I want to mention this is because I know we have at least all had some type of moment where our blacksmithing character is not in Oribos or not in a major city that has an anvil nearby, especially not a forge nearby, and this just comes in really, really handy. For example, the past few weeks, a lot of us have been grinding for honored reputation, potentially even revered if you have blacksmithing on your main. And there's a ton of times where I'll log over and be like, oh wow, I need to craft more Shadowghast ingots, or I need to craft, legendaries, or restock legendaries or whatever. And then I realize I'm in Zereth Mortis, then I have to make my way to the Waystone, gotta go back to Oribos, then gotta go to the profession wing of Oribos, and it can be a little bit of a hassle. But all you have to do is, let's say you're in Zereth Mortis. Yes, technically there is an anvil in Zereth Mortis, but there's not a forge. Let's say you're trying to recraft yourself some Shadowghast rings, but you're out of Shadowghast ingots. Place down your anvil right there, then open up your blacksmithing, and then there you go. You're good to go. You can make yourself your Shadowghast ingots. Of course, you can make yourself anything related to blacksmithing, and it just saves you a little bit of time. Now, of course, you probably don't want to use this all the time because, yet again, it's only available for 5 minutes, and you do have to either craft or buy this item. Personally, I have a ton of them because if you ever do old world crafting, you're eventually going to have to craft like 20 of these. So I keep a lot of them. And they are just useful for places where I'm lazy and I don't want to make my way back to a major city. But that is the first little tip. If you do want to save some travel time for some desperate measures, feel free to purchase some thermal anvils. Alright, so tip number 2 for this video is creating a guild bank that is shared between all of your alts. So this is pretty self-explanatory, but what I'm talking about is a guild bank that all of your alts are actually in the guild for, and basically this is just a great way to share materials or stockpile anything that you don't want to hold in the actual character's inventories. Now, I do understand a lot of you, if you are beginner gold makers, or honestly any gold maker in general, you probably are a part of a guild, whether it's for PvP or PvE reasons, or maybe it's just a group of friends that you've created a guild with. So I understand that not your main or anything will want to be in this guild. However, you have your crafting alts that you might simply only craft in, and you don't really do current content, and that is kind of the characters that you have this guild bank for. In general, guild banks are great for storage. This right here was my first ever guild bank, and as you can see, it's pretty messy, but it's shared between a lot of my alts. Now, because this is the main one that I have, and it's shared between a lot of characters, this kind of houses everything. So I have some silk in here, or some cloth, excuse me. I have some random pyrite, yet again, a lot of cloth. Got some bear tartar, some random crafted legendaries, some random shirts, just a lot of weird things, a very, very small leftovers of Mage Tower stockpile, just some random items that any of my alts can have access to if they need these items. Now, what specifically is in this guild bank is probably not the best example, but having a guild bank where you could replace all of this cloth, which let's say you need vendor items, fill it up with penumbra thread, fill it up with luminous flux. Your blacksmith runs out of flux, instead of having to go to your other character to purchase it, etc. Open up that guild bank, take what you need, and then you can replenish later. Now, a tip for y'all, if you guys do not know how to actually add your alts to a guild, what you will have to do is, of course, create the guild. Generally, I offer, a few hundred gold. If I'm desperate, a few thousand gold. In general chat in a major city, generally, you'll always get somebody willing to sign because, 200 gold can pay for their bags. And of course, the more you offer, the faster you will probably actually get signatures. But once you have a guild created, of course, make sure that you actually kick those random people out of your guild just in case. And so once you have your guild, as you can see, this is currently mine. I already have some alts in it, but you can simply just add your guild to the guild finder. And then of course, not a lot of people are going to be looking for your guild. And then you can of course remove it from the guild finder whenever you are finished with this, but just add in some random type of stuff just in order for you to find your guild. Then on your alt, you can go into here, search the name of whatever you said, any of the filters you applied, and then right there, you can join your guild. You might have to go and accept it on your main, but that's a simple way of adding your alts, and that avoids having to have a third or second player trying to get admin and add your alts, etc., etc. So definitely use the guild finder to your advantage, and we're going to move on to number 3. Alright, so moving on, we need to talk about material prices. Now, I feel like this is one of the biggest mistakes that people are making whenever they are getting into gold making, especially if this is the first time gold making out of all expansions, and that is paying way more for materials than they should be. Now, specifically, what I'm talking about is vendor items like penumbra thread, as well as luminous flux. Now right here, as you can see, I am purchasing them for 7.2 gold, and that is the cheapest you can. If you look at this material in Oribos, no matter what, it will be priced at 9 gold because that is the non-reputation discounted price. So this applies to basically any vendor items. Food gets slightly cheaper, thread gets cheaper, even the new kettle is discounted at 200 instead of 250. Luminous flux is at the 7.2 gold mark, and the biggest one right here is arboreal shards are also going for 100 gold instead of the very overpriced version in Oribos. So the biggest takeaway is that you should never, ever buy vendor prices in Oribos. Never, ever, no matter the circumstance. You will never be able to get the reputation discounted price since there's no reputation tied to Oribos personally. However, there are 3 different things that you can do in order to get these discounted prices for yourself. The first one, the obvious one, is if you are Horde, you can have a goblin, which the racial ability is in order to get these discounts. So all you have to do is create a goblin. It can literally be level 1 if you don't have a current content goblin. Then with the help of some friends, you can summon it to this location, and there you go, you have your discount. Any goblin will do, and you'll be able to purchase these for cheap. Now, the second way to get these items is through Shadowlands Reputation. Now, the third topic is also, or the third choice you have is also Reputation, but it only applies to a few items. This method right here, you need to be exalted with either the Night Fae, as you can see right here, or with the Wild Hunt, or you need to be exalted with the Ascended, which is the Bastion or Kyrian Covenant. So you need exalted with one of these two Shadowlands covenants, and you'll be able to get all discounted prices. So if you are exalted with the Wild Hunt like I am, you'll come to this location right here. It's outside of the heart of the forest. The Flight Master path goes right here. So just come outside and then you have all of these vendors. Now, let's say you are part of Kyrian and you are exalted with them. All of the vendors is at Hero's Rest. In that circle, you just kind of have to walk around and find them. And that is the part 2 of this. Sadly, Maldraxxus and Ravendreth do not have all materials available to you, so you do need exalted with either these two covenants, or you have part 3, or option 3, and you can be exalted with any major city. So, for the more generic vendor prices, or the vendor items like Penumbra Thread and Luminous Flux, you can purchase these from any major city. For example, right after BFA, whenever Shadowlands first started, I kept my character in BFA for quite a long time because I simply purchased my thread and my Luminous Flux from the blacksmithing vendor inside of Zultazar or Zandalar, and I was able to purchase it at 7.2 gold, and people did not even have exalted Shadowlands Reputation yet. So all of the major cities have this option, so I will probably put some type of long list on screen, but the most known, of course, Org or Stormwind. Then you have the BFA major cities, Zandalar, and then of course the Borealis for Alliance, or any simple major city. You can even go to Thunderbluff or Undercity if you'd like. Now, the one caveat of this is that arboreal shards are not available. So if you are a legendary crafter, you will have to get exalted with the Night Fae or the Kyrian, but for the more generic vendor items, you should be able to get it at any major city. But just make sure you're not paying overpriced for these materials. It can really cut into your profits. And we're moving on to number 4, which is making sure TSM is calculating your items correctly. Now, what I mean by this is specifically Inscription and Jewelry Crafting have an additional process to them, aka milling and prospecting, and by default, TSM has a pretty generic type of algorithm or calculation in order to get prices for these items. For example, Essence of Torment, Essence of Rebirth, they do get calculated within TSM for their prospecting rate. However, it is pretty not accurate. And the same goes for milling with the different pigments and inks. So what happens is that normally those items are priced a lot higher than they should be, which is causing your TSM to show no profit, even though profit is truly there. I'll kind of put a before and after comparison whenever basically fixing this issue. Now, you're probably asking, like, okay, so there's an issue. How exactly do you fix this? And this is using custom price sources. Now, I personally use a YouTuber named Koya. It is his only video on YouTube. And if you just simply look up like Koya TSM prospecting sources, something like that, his video is bound to come up. But basically what he has done is calculated the drop chance of inks, pigments, gems, essences, all of that, and has created them into a calculation of different price sources, which you can input into your TSM. So it's a simple process, copy and pasting, editing a little bit of your items, and then you're set to go. Of course, if you guys do not want to use Koya's, Mantheus also has his own prospecting custom price sources. So if you guys prefer to use Mantheus's, you of course can. Just keep in mind, I believe he only does prospecting. So you will have to go to Koya for milling if you do inscription. Also, if you guys do not use TSM, or you do not want to involve all of that custom price source nonsense, then you can of course use an external spreadsheet to calculate the cost as well. Personally, my main Shadowlands spreadsheet, which is in the link in the description, has a prospecting as well as an inscription calculator, and I believe Mantheus's cheat sheet to Shadowlands also has both as well. It just comes down to personal preference, and I bet there's a ton out there if you simply just search for it. But that is number 4. And lastly, I have mentioned this definitely before in a previous video, but this is taking the time to set up crafting operations in order to restock. Now, crafting operations is honestly a pretty simple operation to set up. I will link the full-on TSM tutorial inside of the description. I highly recommend it. It's pretty short. I mean, it's 25 to 30 minutes, but it is an in-depth tutorial, and it goes over basically how to craft all of these items. Now, the best thing about this is, let's say you have these set up, you can go into your TSM crafting. Let's say, all right, I want to restock my enchanting, and I want to restock my alchemy. All you have to do is select those, hit a restock, and there you go. Based on your profit margins, etc., it will automatically calculate what you need to restock, how long it's going to take, the cost of it, and then the profit. And because it is a part of the gathering process, you can go here, select a tune, and it'll tell you exactly what you need to craft. So I need 809 more Death Blossom, 78 more Mirror Root, 1200 more vials, and I need to go craft 200 of each of these potions. Then if I get a Tiger Sense, I need 21 crystals and 57 shards. So this just saves a ton of time. I mean, if I wanted to go through here, I would have to go into my enchanting and be like, all right, I have 4 agility. All right, I need to restock 16 because I always keep 20. So I have to do that. Hit Q. It's already there. All right, this one right here, I already have 20. It's profitable, but I don't need to craft more, etc. It's a very long process if you are doing this by hand. So if you haven't already, I highly recommend taking the time out of your day to learn crafting operations, set them up, and you will improve your overall crafting efficiency by a ton. But everybody, that is it for this video. Hopefully you've learned at least a small tiny thing from this video, from any of these tips. Of course, if you're a beginner, I hope this can guide you and possibly see some mistakes that you're possibly making if you guys are very new. But thank you guys so much for watching. If you haven't already, feel free to show some support and subscribe if you'd like to see more. And as always, have a good day.